Welcome everyone here. A warm welcome to this KanDDDinsky 2025. It's an honor for Martin, Xin and I to be able to open this KanDDDinsky. Martin?
Sorry. Can you, Helen, we have a problem. So
what?
The room is totally messed up. And
what?
The seating is messed up. Xin is not on the stage.
But Martin,
and you're opening the keynote.
Martin, yesterday in the evening, we helped this team to set this up, the seating, exactly like it is right now. What did you expect?
Well, I mean, this is a conference, and the conference starts with a keynote, and
yes,
with one expert on the stage, and hundreds listening to the expert, and getting to know new things they might use in their day-to-day work on Monday.
Okay, I get your point. Well, what you're talking about is a valuable model of a keynote. I get that. But I feel like KanDDDinsky is a little bit different. You see, there are so many, roughly about 200 experts here in the room. And they know so many things, they have so many interesting views and opinions, and it would be a pity to miss out on all of that. Right? So this is why this conference actually dedicates a whole open space day on Friday to flip the script and give them the opportunity to shape this conversation.
Okay,
that's cool, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
So you mean sticking to my model of a keynote might be a pitfall?
Yes.
Okay. I think I get the idea, but why wait until Friday? Why not start right away?
That's a really good point. So yes, let's start right from the beginning, right now at the keynote, because every one of us might have a different mental model of a keynote. And to really learn together, we need to be aware of them, to challenge them, and to try out new models, because then we might discover something new together, right? So let's start.
Okay, so what you're actually saying is that all of us are keynote speakers right now?
Cool, right?
Ooh. That sounds a little chaotic. Is it even safe to take the risk?
That's right. We're not looking for chaos, and therefore we have a few simple rules to follow. So first of all, just stay curious. Today is not about right or wrong answers, it's just about sharing our experiences with one another. Also, be safe. Be kind to yourself and to others. We will give you a structure. How you will fill it is totally up to you. So only share what you feel safe to share, listen to the others, be kind. And then a very important point, stay to the code of conduct and have fun, and then we're fine.
Okay, that sounds manageable, I would say. But still, I mean, if I mess up, what's going to happen?
Well, honestly, then you're in really good company. Because obviously, Martin and I are no actors at all, but we wanted to take this small risk of display right in the beginning in order to make it a little bit easier for you to do the same in the rest of the conference. So you see, we're still alive. That didn't kill us. So it's safe here to take some risks, and that's our invitation for you today and for the rest of the conference. Stay small risks, try out experiments, try to learn together, be curious, and make connections. And then we will get out the best of this conference all together.
So, welcome to our little experiment. This conference doesn't start with one voice on the stage, but with all of us.
And staying true to that, we really want to start with the first connection before content. And we only need 2 more things to do so. First of all, when we start connecting, that will mean that every one of you starts to speak up in their little groups of 4. You might have seen them already. And you will feel the tendency to get ever louder and louder to overpower the other voices. We urge you to try to withdraw this feeling, and instead, even if it feels counterintuitive, try to lower your voice. Maybe get a little bit closer in your huddle. You're always free to move the chairs as you need them to be. And then this will help every one of us to listen to each other and to be able to hear each other. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we want to really lead you through the interactions. For that, we may need your attention from time to time to tell you what the next step is. While you're talking, this is quite a task, so we need your help. And for that, we will now introduce the waterfall. And the waterfall goes like follows. Whenever Martin, Xin, or me say waterfall in the microphone and you hear it, you instantly start with the sound shh and direct your attention towards us. So that way we create a wave which will flow through the room, and by the end, your attention is towards us. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add that one breath is enough. Yeah, so not shh, shh, shh.
Yeah. So let's try it. You saw that you're already in your groups. So we would ask you to just now start introduce yourselves to the rest of your groups. And when you hear the word waterfall, we start the wave and try it out. Okay, so please start introducing yourselves. Waterfall. Waterfall. A little bit louder. Waterfall. Okay, that was the first try. Next time I will say it a little bit louder. We can get this. We try it once again. And keep in mind the urge of getting louder and louder. Try to resist it, get a little bit closer, and try to lower your volume. Okay? Then you might also hear my waterfall. Let's try it again. Waterfall. Ah, perfect. Okay, I think we're ready for the first connection, right?
Yes.
Okay. The first connection has two goals. First of all, we want to share your experiences and learn from you and learn from each other as the experts today. Second of all, by activating your experiences, it will be even easier to connect the experiences that Xin will tell us about in a little bit to what you already know and feel. So we'll start first, and the talk will be about promises and pitfalls of the modeling path. And that's why we're really curious to hear about your success stories with modeling and models. So the first step is in silence. So this will be really just you thinking and reflecting. Try to think about one story that you experienced where a model or a method helped you or your team to really get this breakthrough, or a really deep insight, or which helped you to achieve an unexpectedly good result. You have 1 minute to think about it, just in silence. Okay, I don't even need a waterfall now, but we're going to the next step, which will be the interaction. So don't worry if no story popped up in your mind. You will be in groups as you're seating. If you're very small groups, you can also turn around to the others. And we would like to ask you now to share at least one story, because we're sure that in every group there will be one story. And that's enough. You have 4 minutes to share it. And that's it. Okay, you may start. 4 minutes. We will give you a hint. Waterfall. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, we can go one last step further. So now you shared your stories. Keep those stories in mind, and also the stories that you had in your head from the reflection. And imagine the method or the model that you were talking about. Imagine it to be a ladder. And imagine that this ladder helped you get up. And now please reflect and talk and discuss about what did this method or model help you reach? What did it help you see differently? Again, you will have 4 minutes, and then we continue. Go ahead.
Waterfall. Nice. Works with my voice too.
It is magic. Okay, thank you very much for taking this effort, for taking this first little risk. So we now had our first connections. Martin, what's now?
Okay, for those of you who are a little bit like me and not willing yet to fully let go the expert's keynote model, I have good news for you. So please help me welcome a true expert on stage, Xin Yao.
Thanks. I'm a very small person, so I'll stand here for a while. Hello, everyone. Good morning. What an incredible welcoming by Helen and Martin. So, in case you haven't noticed, what you just did wasn't really a check-in. It wasn't really an icebreaker. It was actually rock solid contribution to today's topic, models. Now, some people might say, yeah, more interaction and new people I haven't met. Some people might say, oh my God, more interactions and new people I haven't met. Save me. All right, whatever your expectations are, I'm gonna ask you to do something even more weird right now, okay? So bear with me. Can everybody cross their arms for me? I know you're not an arrogant person, but cross them anyway. Now, can you look down? Whichever arm is on top, can you switch arms? How was that? Easy? Awkward? Weird? All right, so it may not be a big deal if you are this ambidextrous person, meaning you can use both your hands with equal dexterity. But if you're like me and most of us, a new neural pathway just forced its way through your brain. And in many ways, today's content and format of this keynote might feel a little bit like this, crossing your arms or uncrossing your arms the other way. All right, so I'm curious. Most of you found your seat using that seating algorithm, Scala code. Who ended up in the main code block? Who was caught as an exception? Who didn't make it? Okay, the rest of you ignored the queue and chose your freedom. That is good. Now I can share one of my own arms uncrossed, which happened a few years ago. Back then, I couldn't really imagine a room full of strangers having genuine connections. And back then, collaborative modeling for me was really this ladder that helped me climb to more productivity, or structured workshop formats, align, coordinate, reach better outcomes with less time. What uncrossed my arms was two things. One is collaborative modeling experience itself. The other is public speaking. So for one, a lot of my own DDD workshops or any collaborative meetings, they produced a lot of useful artifacts, a lot of activities, a lot of breakouts. But it seems that people still didn't have a shared understanding. And some people even felt, I was not seen or heard. I was just a 2D person with some knowledge in my head they want. So I feel disconnected. Unfortunately, some important conversations still happened in the ladies' room or just after the meeting or in between the meetings. And some years back, I started public speaking, and some of my most successful conference talks felt annoyingly one way. I presented, people clapped, feedback was good. But this delivery model of one person transmitting, all the rest receiving, felt increasingly more insufferable and dissatisfying to me as a speaker and as a participant. I was thinking there has got to be a different way. So my invitation today, together with Helen and Martin, to you would be into this, we would like to invite you into this learning experiment together with us to try a different keynote model. Now, the traditional keynote model is a model of me. Yeah? So the unit of learning would be individuals. So a lot of individual me bubbles individually connected with me and my slides. Sorry, forgot to switch slide. All right. So today, the intention is to turn these individual me bubbles of isolated individuals to a new model of we, the community model, the KanDDDinsky model. Who's ready for the we model? Anybody? All right. All that being said, we want you to know, as you already heard, at any time during this keynote, you can choose to return to your little bubble of me. Take a deep breath. Find yourself, be safe, and when you find your grounding again, you can say no to any part or whole of the interactive parts. But when you're ready again, we need you back. But we also know, unless each and every one of us have the freedom to choose to be me, we cannot choose to fully belong in a community. So, enough pep talk. Let's head into the content. You ready? Okay. I said enough pep talk, but I just want to introduce myself. Forgot that part. Sorry, vulnerability. That's an AI-generated scene. I used to be this expert, wanted to be seen as a DDD expert, go out helping clients and running trainings. Today, and this is an honest case, I mostly see myself as this connector, like this person, holding this highlighter pen, highlighting hidden connections. And that's what I also hope to do, to be able to do today. And you may ask, oh, Svermi, connections. Buzzword, what kind of connections? Well, connections between you and the content you're gonna see just in a moment, and connection between yourself, and also, hopefully, I could create some conditions together with Mats and Helen for you to connect better with yourself, with what matters to you, and with the gifts you might even know. All right, let's give it a try. So, talking about promises, that's the easy topic, right? So, that's like asking ourselves the question, why do we model? Now, question to the room. What is one of the best-known quotes about models? It only has 8 words. Most of you in this community should know it. Yes, actually, you have relaxed the constraint in that quote. You said most models are wrong, but some are useful. But actually, Mr. Bach said all models are wrong, but some are useful. Okay? I love this quote. It has perfect symmetry. You see it? Really clean punchline. 4 words in the first part, 4 words in the second part. Perfect architecture. Now, I'd like you to, well, throughout this keynote, I'm going to implement a contribution model called the popcorn model with you to help me contribute content. Yeah? So if you are a busy or lazy parent like me, you probably are not unfamiliar with microwave popcorns. Who is familiar with microwave popcorns? See? Maybe even non-parents. So, you put a bag of popcorns in the microwave. There is silence. Then there's pop. Another pop. Then pop, 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 pop. All right? Today, we may not be able to do big bags of popcorns, but that's the thing we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is to unpack the wisdom of Mr. Box using the popcorn model. Okay, 10 seconds of productive silence. Help me complete those 2 prompts. You're in the microwave. Okay, now we're ready to pop. I just need a couple of popcorns to get us started. Who is ready to pop the first? That's the first pop. All models are wrong because?
Of simplification.
Simplification. Thank you, Torsten. There is capacity for another pop for the first prompt. Who has the next pop?
Every model removes connections, speaking of this word, and so they remove relevant context.
Right, it ignores certain things. Right, thank you very much. The rest of you, you didn't make it for the first one. Now we do the second part. Some models are useful because we have capacity for another 2 pops. Any ideas? There's one. Please wait for the microphone. Hard for popcorn, I know.
Because they enable communication.
Sorry?
They enable communication.
Enable communication. Important point. Last pop. There's
they allow teams to build up on the previous models.
Right, thank you very much. We'll stop here, a couple of popcorns for each. And really valid input. Thank you for the contribution. We'll keep it going in other parts of the talk. This is my own top 2 bullets for each part. There's, of course, more. Now, every model is wrong because, like it's already being said, it is always a representation, meaning it is not the real thing. And even worse, all models are reductionistic. We often, complain about others' reductionism, but all models are reductionistic, right? Simplification, ignoring facts, and amplifying other aspects, right? A model will be useful if it serves a crystal clear purpose, right? Like the popcorn model. It's used for crowdsource really, really fast inputs, but it's not good in this context for deep exchanges, right? We don't use that model. Right, and good models, useful models, tend to have powerful abstractions. Now I could say to you, let me describe a model for you. It's a structure for climbing up and down, and it consists of 2 side pieces, often joined by cross pieces. Or I could also say, a ladder. Now we don't need all those words. So abstractions, yeah? So, being a modeling nerd, I used to ponder this question. If all models are wrong and only some are useful, how do I even make models that are wrong in the right way so they can be useful? And I tend to think, usefulness and wrongness, they are distinct quality attributes. Can't be both, even though I sort of know all models are wrong. But what really helped me, unpack this bias is actually the rest of that quote you haven't seen after the 8 words. Mr. Box said, since all models are wrong, the scientists must be alert to what is importantly wrong. It's inappropriate to be concerned about mice when there are tigers around, or big cats around. So what we want to use our models to catch are those big cats, right? The tigers. In case you have been wondering, why do I always see this image with the ladder and the cat? That's it, that's a metaphor, right? So to tap into the power of models, we have to tap into the power of abstractions. And now, since we are in a DDD conference, I think Eric is not here. Who can remember the expert definition of a model in DDD? Okay, I'm making you unsafe. I'm putting you on the spot. If I were asked by somebody else, I wouldn't be able to answer right now. So I'm going to show you. Model defined by Eric is a system of abstractions that describes selected aspects of the domain. So again, reduction, right? And that can be used to solve problems related to that domain. Again, purpose, right? So these systems of abstractions, as DDD practitioners, we tend to want to decompose them and put them into their separate containers called bounded contexts. And when we put each of these systems of abstractions in its own bounded context, that model has a particular name in DDD. What do we call that model? Yes, thank you. A domain model. So here are examples of two domain models in two separate bounded contexts by Martin Fowler. Now, I know it's very small, but let's take a look at those abstractions inside those two models. What are they representations of? Or rather, let me ask you this question a different way. Which abstraction in those two domain models, can be traced back to somebody or something that you can see, touch, or hear, or smell, or taste in real life? Well, maybe a customer, or I don't know, maybe a salesperson. You kind of can see these things. But the rest, opportunity, pipeline, ticket, maybe a defect. You can argue if you're a developer, right? So the thing is, what is pointed out by the historian Yuval Noah Harari is that the ability to really abstract away from these direct sense perceptions and be able to think and communicate in abstractions, that's the capability that happened to humans in this period called cognitive revolution that is about 300 to 700,000 years ago. And he wrote in his famous bestseller book, as far as we know, only sapiens can talk about entire class of entities they have never seen, never seen, touched, or smelled. And the ability to speak about fictions, that's a historian's word for abstractions, roughly, is the most unique feature of the sapiens language, because the large numbers of strangers can then successfully cooperate, right? The cognitive revolution is according to Harari, is that point where history decoupled itself or declared its independence from biology. And what is meant by that? You know, us humans, we are not the fastest creatures on Earth. We're definitely not the strongest. But we can imagine together. And we can, communicate about our imaginations in our language. And that is what sort of put us on the top of the food chain, right? Put tigers in cage. Right. So, bottom line, abstractions allow human communications to scale. And now, if all this anthropology stuff is really like abstract for you, think of DDD as its own system of abstractions. And I dare bet, let's say 2 experienced DDD practitioners, strangers, you never met each other before. You meet each other in the hallway, and you start talking about modernizing your legacy system using ubiquitous language or using anti-corruption layer. You can instantly understand each other. Now, if my grandma, who doesn't know about DDD, joins that conversation, if even she has good ears, she would say, huh? Which layer? What language? Right? So that's the power of abstraction. And yeah, so that's like the promise of models really is about how do we find these importantly wrong aspects of something so we can make things useful. What is useful? Yeah, well, models help us understand, help us decide and act, and help us cooperate and innovate. Right. So that was the easier part of this keynote. More dense content will come. And there will be stuff from philosophy, sociology, systems and complexity science, a little bit organizational theory. I am not sharing all this as expert delivery, but rather as an invitation for, a co-exploration, right? I think of myself as, I think polymath is probably too much of a compliment, maybe a jack of all trade, trying to cross-pollinate from other communities. So encouragement is that if you want, you can collect some sparks during this talk. There are sticky notes, there are pens on the chairs, and you can, every time you notice something that sparks your curiosity, jot it down. It's not a task, okay? You can choose to take a screenshot, or you can choose to maybe make a mental note because you have a good computer here. The idea is really to extend your memory, working memory, into an external memory when you put things down, especially when you journal about it. Sort of you put it down and you can use free up your working memory to process more content, okay? So it's not a must, but it's an encouragement. And we'll try to collect some of those, sparks later on. All right, so that's it. So what we'll dive into is deliberately a model that is a significant departure from the DDD and software world, okay? So just to put everybody on the same page. Okay, now, not popcorn. We're not gonna popcorn, but I'm gonna invite for productive silence again. Please use 10 solid seconds of reading time. This model called the Ashby space, and give me your best stab for what is this model all about. Okay, those were the 10 seconds. Okay, no popcorn, I'm gonna explain it. Now, this visualizes Ross Ashby's law of requisite variety. Variety is a measure of complexity, so roughly we can say they're synonymous. Variety, complexity, same. It's defined in the early system thinking cybernetics as the number of distinguishable states, either in the external environment that throw these challenges at us, or the internal system, right? So that is responding to these external challenges. Okay, then you would guess, then the vertical axis is the environmental complexity, right? Then the horizontal axis is kind of like, if the vertical is a problem space, then the horizontal is kind of the solution space. It's kind of like the response repertoire of a system to be able to respond to these external challenges. And that 45-degree diagonal is, matches the requisite variety, which is where the internal complexity matches the external challenges, right? Below that line, a system is able to adapt, survive, and we can respond to whatever challenges. And roughly, it translates to the bigger the market is, the more customer types we would like to be able to deal with, then the more internal organizational complexity we would need to develop in order to deploy our strategy, right? Making sense? And if you're above that line, sorry, your game is lost because you're overwhelmed by the external complexity. So that's the famous law of requisite variety says only variety can destroy or absorb variety. Now, raise your hand if your first impression was not far apart from what I just explained. Wow, that's about half of the room. it's like I can invite you guys to read through or present the rest of my talk, I guess. All right, adding one more layer of complexity, we can subdivide the problem space into 3 problem streams, the ordered regime, the complex regime, and the chaotic regime. Very much similar to KanDDDinsky. The ordered regime basically is where, low complexity, cause and effect, pretty clear, and the complex regime is kind of like, oh wow, there's more variables in the environment, and now that means we need to design our control variables internally. Also, is a bigger challenge. And cause and effect, they can be far apart, either in time or in space, or in both. Right? Chaotic regime, well, that's chaotic. And now it might seem 3 equal areas, but that's just for illustration purposes. Adding one more layer of complexity, we have this red dotted line called the adaptive frontier, right? So outside this frontier, the system is, the environmental complexity is way too much for the internal system's adaptation budget. You cannot really consume it, right? So if you want to all of a sudden move your Danish company, and all of a sudden you want to move to Sweden and Germany, and you kind of need to think, okay, what is my adaptive frontier? And that frontier is intentional, right? So you can choose how much of the environmental complexity you would like to consume based on, how much of that market you want to occupy and your internal capability, right? That's what it means. Okay, if we want to use this Ashby space model to do a strategy modeling to work out how do we survive and thrive in the environment, and if we plot that as a chain of use cases, we could say, yeah, okay, we have an actor, this actor wanted to strategize, and the top level use cases would be this, right? To analyze the problem space complexity. So what's the threats and opportunities the external world throws at us, and then analyze the solution space complexity, what is the needed adaptive capacity of us. And so these 2 use cases would then include sub-use cases such as, oh yeah, part of that job, the first job, was basically to position my company, my organization, on the vertical and the horizontal axes, right? But in order to do that positioning, something else is needed. You actually need to define and categorize your state variables. Now, for the problem space, for the state variables, you could choose to work with, country, markets, segment, opportunities, threats, and climate, and you use Worldly Map or whatever, right? For the solution space, you could choose to work with your internal organizational structure, your DDD capability, your people, your product, your process, and et cetera, et cetera. And that's where the Ashby space model becomes extensible and can be extended with other strategy and design models. Sorry, I started to talk faster and faster. That's a thing I have. All right, so the outcome of such a strategy analysis could be that you are that red dot, and you actually want to move to the green dot to expand your market reach, to be more resilient, and to have more financial growth, right? So you want to move your frontier a little bit out. Okay, I've gone to a little great length, but not enough. This model has a lot more to it to explain this 2x2 matrices. And now we have a lot of, I have no doubt, you guys have all worked with 2x2 matrices. Anybody give me some other examples? 2x2, anything. Sorry? Yes, okay. So we also have the autonomy alignment matrices, a lot of things of that nature, right? What about in DDD? Anybody has worked with core domain chart with complexity and differentiation? That's a 2x2 matrix as well, right? And then any variation of project management tools, cost, value, impact, efforts, that sort of thing, and even the the skill wheel matrix in situational leadership, that's also 2 by 2. There's something funny about these 2 by 2 matrices, right? The moment they're shown, everybody relax. Tension resolves in the room, right? So there's something to be said about them. They make complexity seem perfectly graspable, state variables. What's not to like, right? But these things, these certainty, these safety, these data-driven decisions are precisely the pitfalls that they can lead us into. Okay, that is a lot of one-way communication. So let's do an attention reset. This is just a trick. Nothing else with the bell. Just that if in case you are, okay. Okay, but I am, before we all fall into the pitfalls, I do want, I'm so curious about how is all this landing with you, honestly. So, popcorn, can anybody give me one word or one short phrase for how you are feeling right now? Right? Bored, overwhelmed, skeptical, curious, whatever, right? Yeah. Anybody? Excited. Thank you. That makes me feel good. Another pop. Inspired. Excited, inspired. Thank you so much. You just made my day because I was kind of like having, okay, it's getting more dense. Can these people take it? Should I find a way to, find the door? All right. Okay. Let's fall into the pitfalls. Some of us have met these 2 words in our life. These 2 words are from philosophy. Question for the room again. What are the key questions in ontology? Any ideas? There is one. Please wait for the mic this time.
How to put things into nicely named buckets.
Oh my God, you're talking about data science, I think. Ontology. All right. Bounded context, philosophy, okay? Thank you so much for pointing out that mistake. All right. Any other input? Okay. I guess this is too far out. Sorry for this. The answer is, what is real? Ontology, the Greek word onto, right? Something falls onto. What is real? What is the nature of reality? I'm not going to pop you for the next one because the word is somebody, many of us can't even say it. I tried it 20 times before the talk, so I can say it now. So epistemology. Okay, what's the key question in epistemology? That's what's worth knowing in that reality, right? And how do we know it? So that is too philosophical. So how do we make this more useful for our DDD and software practitioners? Well, we could say, ontology, that's kind of the reality. It's kind of our problem domain, right? Instead of to say, what is the nature of reality? We could say, what is real complexity in our problem domain? Yeah? Then on the other side, that's us. That's the observer. That's the modeler. And we're asking, what complexity is worth my effort modeling? How do I go about modeling it? Right? So that's kind of it, basically. Philosophy, wrongly explained 101. Okay. Now, before we use these distinctions, I would like to do a little bit of a digression to apply the Ashby space model into a problem domain, into the healthcare problem domain. In particular, I would like you to imagine an emergency room, or also known as intensive care unit, ICU. Everybody knows what an ER is and an ICU is? Yeah, good? Yeah. So let's take a look at the vertical axis, right? Where would you place an emergency room? In one of the 3 problem regimes. Is it ordered? Is it complex, or is it chaotic? Chaotic. Okay, I see most votes are for chaotic. Indeed, if I've been to ICUs a lot of times when I lost my father, for a family member of a patient, this domain is totally chaotic. I still remember, alarms blaring, people rushing around, weird jargons being thrown around, and life and death decisions being made at bewildering speed. Yeah? But what if you are an experienced physician? The same reality would appear to you like more manageable, right? You have the triage protocols and the meaning behind the different alarms would make sense to you. And even for life and death decisions, you would have your operating procedures, right? What if we take a look at the horizontal axis? What is my response capacity in the emergency room? Well, it's the same, right? For me, in my father's situation, I felt like I had two choices. I could either panic or I could just wait, hopefully and helplessly. But if I were a nurse, I would have more mitigating options, right? If I were a doctor, a physician, then I would have even more nuanced intervention possibilities. The point is, the reality of an ER, of an emergency room, isn't real. It arises in the coupling between the in-the-moment decisions and the medical situation itself, right? And our capacity to navigate this domain also depends very much on our capacity, again, back to models, to understand and make these distinctions, medical distinctions and abstractions. The world will be beyond us if we don't understand these abstractions. The world will be beyond me if all medical communication is done in German, right? Even the most basic terms. Now, if you are a software developer, you are on an everyday basis, if you're doing software for this domain, making your own assumptions and developing your own responsive capacity to respond to this domain, right? So that basically leads to the first pitfall. Now, the Merriam-Webster definition of a pitfall is basically an unexpected, or I think it's hidden, unexpected or hidden danger or difficulty, right? So the key word here is unexpected. And if I say, so I was very much inspired by the essays, complexity essays of Harry José, and what I call pitfalls, he calls dogmas in his writing. So the first one is something called ontological complexity realism. And to put it in plain words, that's basically the belief that complexity exists, it pre-exists out there for us to discover it and measure it, right? Independently of the observer. And we just had an intuition that may not be true. That second pitfall is called epistemological representationalism. And that basically means that our job to know this pre-existing complexity is actually to develop objective and neutral representations of it. We can know the pre-existing complexity by having even better models and tools about it, right? If we look at by the way, I need to say Ross Ashby pointed out several times that variety is observer dependent. But unfortunately, his models, the Ashby space and whatever 2x2 matrices on an everyday basis, they've been applied in a context-free and observer-independent way, right? So if you look at it, you could say that, the X and Y axes are objective states and that horizontal diagonal, it's objective measurement, right? And then you have these transition from these regimes so clean. And when if I present to a board my conclusion of that strategy analysis of the green and red dots, people would say, oh, it's such a factual, data-based and data-driven analysis. Love it, okay? So that is epistemologically in my eyes, a pitfall. Again, a thing I want to explore with you. And adding these two things together, that might be a surprise. That it could be a pitfall, that complexity is immune to the art of modeling. And that's basically the stance. It's kind of like, hello world, hey, you're out there. I'm in here. I'm gonna model you. But my modeling, don't worry, it won't change you at all. You're still you out there, okay? So that's it. All right, so the if I ask you, what will happen if you put a warm, chunky thermometer in a cold glass of water to measure its temperature? Yeah, so right. So the very act of putting that thermometer in the cold water would change the water's temperature, right? So even though all you want to do is to get an accurate reading, that is what George Spencer Brown calls the re-entry problem. The distinction falls back onto itself, meaning the very act of modeling, making those distinctions and abstractions sort of injects part of ourselves into that reality we're looking at. So it's not hello world, hey, you're out there. I put myself, my abstractions in there, and I change you. And so this re-entry problem is not one way. This is called epistemic coupling. Coupling, we all know. Basically, it's that relationship I described. You know, our distinctions and abstractions changes the world we're looking at. We model the world we know how to model, right? And then we launch actions and interventions into that world. The world responds to it. That response of the environment changes our knowledge, our understanding, our beliefs, and impacts our next models and next actions, and on it goes, like a never-ending loop. The modeler and the complexity co-arise in action. All right, this is what's defined with the definition of epistemic modeling, the recursive interaction between the knowing system and their environment. So see at work at Ashby Space. So basically, the org that is modeled is doing the modeling, right? It chooses how it sees itself. And the very act of modeling or strategizing the domain actually makes it more complex, and that in turn makes us more complex. Complexity is basically about adding more relations into that system you're modeling, okay? Complexifying. All right. That is a fire hose of information. So let's do a quick check-in. I would like you to just turn to a neighbor, just one neighbor, break your tribe into two, and share with each other just one thing, one of those prompts, right? What struck you, what surprised you, and what got you curious in this past bit? Just, let's say 3 minutes, a minute and a half each. Yeah, let's go. Waterfall. All right, so I'm gonna ask you a question. What struck you in that conversation you just had? Notice it's not a report out. You are not obligated to tell me what happened in that conversation. What I'm interested in knowing is what struck you? What was meaningful? What did you notice? Anybody? There is a hand there.
A bit of an odd one, but both the neighbor to my right as well as I have studied something non-technical. So we got stuck up on epistemology and how that relates to our disciplines of study.
Thank you. I just succeeded in highlighting hidden connections. Marvelous. Thank you. One more chance? We could let it go. I'm short of time. Okay, we'll let it go. All right. Okay, I'm just gonna walk you through very quickly what I think the implication is for our DDD practitioners of those pitfalls. One, problem space and solution space are artificial distinctions, right? The moment you put those abstractions in the world, you're already modifying the world, right? We tend to think, oh yeah, problem space is discovered first and solution space is designed afterwards, sequential. Not so, because there's no problem space out there to be discovered, right? Distinctions are designed by us, not discovered as objective reality again. So, and equally, there's no solution space just in here waiting to be cataloged. And now John Dewey calls it an ongoing transaction where the modeler and the environment mutually specify themselves. And so we tend to think in this community that ubiquitous language is something we can finally get perfect at. And that one fine day, the business and the technical people would speak perfectly in sync, right? So, but I think ubiquitous language is at best asymptotic. It's math. You can approach it, but you can never reach it fully. Because however good and disciplined you are at doing your language thing, when you say the same thing, you mean the same thing, that ubiquity will change. It's fragile. It will be moving because people come from different backgrounds. You had a different day yesterday than today, and everything changes. It's constantly moving. Great minds do not think alike, and they shouldn't think alike. They should think together, and they should make connections through differences as well as commonalities. So don't only stick to your tribe, your DDD tribe, your systems thinking tribe, your architecture tribe. The tribes can become your clique, okay? Same for me, because a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, I keynoted at DDD Europe. I was fascinated by systems thinking. I was bragging about my system dynamics modeling, my causal loop diagrams. Oh, it helped us make sense of a complex world, right? So gradually, I realized none of those models I made were stable representations. You know, things move, and these models are highly manipulable. I tell you, adding one node and adding one interconnection, you totally change a reinforcing loop to a balancing loop. So it can be manipulated. This is a trap I think all of us have been falling into. I think all models are wrong, but mine is better. Alberto told me a variation of this. Alberto, you here? Yeah, what's your version? All models are wrong. Yours is especially wrong. Okay, a variant of this. Okay, raise your hand if you are that person who has never fallen into this trap. No? Because if you're too modest to raise your hand now, come and see me during the break. I think you're the living Buddha, okay? I want to know you. All right. And that is because, you know, the story often goes like this. Oh, I apply my models and methods, I get good at it, and I refine it, I get even better. I develop expertise, I give talks, and then I blog about it. I collect likes and follows on social media. And, oh, some of us become part of the enabling team. Let me enable you. Do you resent? Do you resist and dissent? So I can facilitate your resistance away, shouldn't we? Okay, then you're stuck on that learning loop, right? So how do we stuck on the run? It's basically when that open assumption, open possibilities started to become our beliefs and an identity trap. I still remember my first event storming experience, right? I showed up as a clumsy event stormer, just say that, curious and eager, and I left the room with stardust in my eyes. Oh, event storming, let's do it more. Many years later, I walked out of a multi-day event storming workshop I did for my client, feeling shame, guilt, anxiety, bad conscience, because I couldn't deliver to my clients what they were expecting from me. There was no convergence. There was no shared understanding. There was no tidy, bounded context as a result. What changed? is that I am not the me. This was the event storming world I saw when I walked into my first event storming workshop. And this is what I saw many years later. The question is, I ask you, once you have seen it, how do you unsee it? And more importantly, do you even want to? Yeah? So, this is the key message of this keynote. A philosopher, Wittgenstein. My propositions serve as elucidations in the following way. Anyone who understands me eventually recognizes them as nonsensical. When he has used them as steps to climb beyond them, he must, so to speak, throw away the ladder after he has climbed on it. Throw it away, okay? And the same goes for me. All my system thinking tools, all my DDD tools, all my Como formats, I can't let them stay on me like a waterproof Band-Aid, right? They are learning aids. I need to put them away before they become permanent identity traps, because then they will freeze the perception of me of a changing, ever-changing, and complexity. So, who can take a shot for DDD? This critique comes from the late Stephen Tickle, right? He asked the question, is domain-driven design overrated? And honestly, he has a point. If all we're doing is to, use DDD to hammer on all software problems, then our life is a very sad designer's life. There has to be a life beyond DDD, beyond our tribe, beyond. There is not people who get you, who don't get you. Go to those people who don't get you. That's where you learn the most. That's where I learned the most, right? Right, so that's call to epistemic humility. We're not going to do this as a breakout, but think about it. Which of your favorite ladders do you find hard to step off or hold on lightly? And have you seen any ladders being turned into fences or even weapons? You don't agree? Okay. We'll skip this one because there is no time, but we will be connecting more. Hold on to your sparks. This is almost closing. In case you haven't noticed, this is the final attention reset. Some of you might be sitting with these questions. Okay, Xin, you asked us to throw our ladders away. What comes after the ladder? Right? Intellectual void. Right? We can't ditch all our methods and tools. Right? Why are we in this conference? We paid for it. God damn it. All right. That has got to be the exploration of another time. Honestly, I don't have the answer. Right? I don't have the answer. And I think there is some value to leaving you with an open ending. Because one wise man once said to me, Xin, the best way to kill a really great question, you know what that is? Is by answering it. So I will let you marinate a little bit on your own on this one. But one of my next explorations will be in the leadership track of URDAV in a couple of weeks. This is, again, far from the answer. This is my exploration, my trial and error. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a couple of slides, no voiceover. This is one. You've proven that you're perfect at reading my slides, so this is it. And here is the second one. I'm just thinking, what is social architecture? Can we define some quality attributes for social architecture? And what I've been thinking about is that, in Como and in whatever we're doing, we are pretty good at modeling this thing called attendance, right? We choose the workshop format, we activate participants, and we collect the collectibles. I think we should de-emphasize our modeling of attendance, right? Throw it away. Oh, oops. Instead, we should focus more on modeling attention, because that's the field where the reality and us co-arise and co-evolve. That's where the self meets the community, the parts meet the whole, the listening meets the speaking, the tribe meets its supposedly opponents. And that's something good emerge. Okay, so final thing. I think in the Western society, I was born in China, but I've been really polluted by the Western thinking for many years. We are deeply individualists. Our comfort zone in software, in DDD, it's decoupling, independence, separation of concerns, architecture, separate them all, modularity. How comfortable are you, am I with interdependence? We all love this word community, right? Oh, it gives us this warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a feel-good word. But what community asks from each of us is a declaration of interdependence, right? I have been deeply uncomfortable with interdependence. You know why? I couldn't sleep most of the nights last week. What was I thinking? Such dense content, is it even compatible with this experiment we're doing with connection and contribution? Oh, you stupid, you just simply... So I feared your rejection, I feared your judgment, I feared my own disappointment, I feared failure, I feared everything, right? So I am also paying lip service to my own message. And now I'm going to take the weirdness of this keynote to the far extreme and end it in a way that I 2 days ago didn't think I would even imagine. But I just felt, like these two wonderful people have said in the beginning, I just have to try it. Because until I have tried it, I don't know if I would survive, if I still will live after this. Thank you for holding space. I'm gonna end this keynote by reading you a poem. And the poem is called Fear, by one of my favorite Lebanese American poets called Khalil Gibran. So here it goes. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter, there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear, because that's where the river will know. It's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. That's it. I lived. Okay, thank you very much for your openness, your curiosity, and your sparks. Thank you for holding space for my weirdness and my exploration. Now I'm hand over to these two wonderful people to close the full circle of this conference and send you on your merry way into the conference. I'll see you around in the conference, right? Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, Sin. So we started with this keynote with the premise of connection before content, and as you might have noticed, we went to connection through content. And we believe that there are lots of more connections to be explored in this room, and this shouldn't end with the end of this keynote. So we try to give you several opportunities during the session to find new connections, like with other participants or with your own curiosity. So there might be certain things that are still up in your mind and you're thinking about, and you feel like I need an extension. I need to talk about this. And maybe there's someone in this group of more than 200 DDD experts that might help me with this. So we want to try to move the popcorn to the hallway track and invite you to have meaningful conversations throughout the next 2 to 3 days. So this is how it goes. Bringing our connections to the next level, leaving your tribes of 4 or even your own head. And we ask you, after all the connections you have made today, what is a thought, idea, spark for further exploration that you believe or hope the people at this conference can help you take a step forward with? What is a conversation that you would like to have during this conference? Think about this a second, and then take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and write your spark, your idea, your topic outside of the paper. Some hints: please write legibly so that everybody can read it. Hard for me, but please try. Please know names and try to provide enough context that somebody can understand it who is not able to talk to you right away in the beginning. So you have 2 minutes to fulfill this task. Okay, I hope by now you have something written on your piece of paper. If not, it's also fine. So what we will do is we will have 5 rounds of voting on these topics. And the first thing we want to make sure is that we just randomly distribute your ideas in the room. So this means we mutually exchange our pieces of paper, and we shouldn't do it twice with the same person because then we still have our own. Yeah, so you will have like 10 to 15 seconds and try to exchange as often as possible. Yeah, and then you will hear the waterfall, and then you stick to the paper you have at your hands in this moment. No need to read all these papers during exchanging, just making sure that we have a random distribution. Yeah, so please start milling the pieces of paper. Waterfall. Waterfall. Ah. Okay, so stop at this with this piece of paper you have in your hand. If it's your own, doesn't matter. If you have the same piece of paper again in the next round, just do the same thing again. Now you have time to read it. Think about it and rate it on a scale from 1 to 5. So 5 would be, I feel the urge to leave this keynote right now to have a conversation about this. Please don't leave, actually, but yeah, you feel the urge. Or 4 would mean, I will initiate a session about this topic during the next days. And well, 2 could mean, let me know if you find something interesting. And 1 would be, who? So read your text, think about it, and then please write your vote inside the paper. And once you're done, again, lift up your arm so that I can see that you're ready. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, this was the first round. We do 4 more rounds, so please start milling again. Waterfall. Okay, read the text, think of a vote, open the paper, write down your vote. Yes, so after this round, there should be 2 numbers inside the paper. Okay, 3rd round. Please mill. Waterfall. Again, read, vote, arm up. Okay, we will do one last round. We're short of time, so please mill one last time. Waterfall. Okay, once you have voted, please open the paper and build the sum of the 4 numbers that you have there. Okay, so here's my question. Do we have a 20 somewhere in the room? Just to make sure, a 20 would mean 4 people are really interested in having this conversation, but we distribute it randomly. So if this were a person's not interested in this specific topic, it doesn't mean that your topic was not good enough. Yeah. So do we have a 19? 18? 17? Yeah. So, stepping out of your comfort zone, getting rid of the ladder. So, where were we? 17. Any more 17s? 16s? 15s? How did you change your technology landscape from software-driven to domain-driven? We were with 15? 14? Okay, so 3 more. Possible futures, what comes next? IT, IA, software. What is a good way of introducing DDD to a company that has not yet used the tools? How to convince non-technical colleagues? How do we avoid bias in our modeling? Okay, so there are lots of more 14s and people interested in having conversations. So what we will do, we will move this board to the hallway, and please collect all the other topics there and hack the board by adding stickies like, I will have a conversation at lunch today. You find me with a flower or whatever works for you. Have conversations right at the board about topics. And or if you have some sparks in other talks, just add them. And from time to time, pass by. You will find us there as well. Okay, doesn't work, but we will make sure it works. With this, please move your discussions to the hallway, make connections. Yeah, so that's our invitation for the next 2 days. Therefore, this is an international conference. We encourage you to speak English. There's also this thing, the Pac-Man rule. So if the 3 of us have a conversation and we stand very close, nobody can enter the conversation. So leave some space for others to join the conversation.
Thank you. Okay, what else would you need for the rest of the conference? First of all, very important, the app. Maybe all of you already have them, but just keep in mind they will always tell you where to go, where to find what. Then, keep in mind... What happened?
They want to see the...
Oh, there was not... Yeah, okay. Oh, so many phones. Now I see it. Yeah. Okay, you will also find it on the website. Okay. I already did, sorry. We will bring it back up when you leave the room, then you can still do it. Okay, very important. Awesome thing today, Game Night Social, hosted by Beja and Hannes. Maybe you could just wave, give a sign where you are. Really looking forward to it. This will be amazing. Looking forward to see you all here at 6. And we're also really looking forward to Friday, to the open space. We already talked about it. And we hope that we find some of the sparks from today there again as sessions. And then, of course, very important, stick to the code of conduct. Keep that in mind. And whenever you see any transgressions or anything, we have a wonderful team that you can go to, talk to them, and get some help. And just to... Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe I was too quick. Yeah, but this is what we want to say here. Once again, it was an honor to be able to open the session. Now we give you back to the trusted hands of the amazing team of KanDDDinsky, which is here in the room, and maybe you can just come up for a second. Whenever you have any question, anything... Keep those faces in mind. They're wonderful, and you can talk to them about anything. Martin.
Yes. So all this wouldn't be possible without the sponsors, namely Avanscoperta, NPAL, InnoQ, the Native Web, WPS, Contextive, Florian Lenz. Thank you to the sponsors.